It started with a man in a grey hoodie. Maya first noticed him on a crowded subway platform late one evening. He stood near the edge, motionless, his hood pulled up just enough to shadow his face. Something about him made her uneasy. How he never moved, never checked his phone, never even seemed to blink. When the train arrived, she hurried inside, pushing through the crowded car to put distance between them. But when she looked up, he was inside the train, standing at the far end of the car, staring directly at her. Maya's stomach twisted. She knew for a fact that he hadn't boarded with her. She would have seen him. The train doors had barely been open for 5 seconds, and yet there he was. At the next stop, she switched cars, forcing her way through the pressing bodies of passengers. When the train lurched forward again, she felt a chill crawl up her spine. He was there. Same grey hoodie, same unmoving posture, same unblinking stare. Her mind raced. Maybe he was just some weirdo who got off and back on quickly. Maybe she was overthinking it, but deep inside, a seed of dread took root. She got off at the next stop and walked fast, barely resisting the urge to break into a run. A glance over her shoulder confirmed her worst fear. The man was following her. Maya didn't go straight home. She ducked into a convenience store, pretending to browse while keeping an eye on the street. Minutes passed, no sign of him. Eventually, convinced he was gone, she made her way back to her apartment. That night, she barely slept. The next day, she saw him again. Outside her office, standing across the street, watching. Her co-worker, James, noticed her distracted glances out the window. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, just thought I saw someone." She hesitated, then pointed him out. "That guy, in the grey hoodie." James squinted. "Who?" Maya turned back to the window. The man was gone. Her heart pounded. He was just there, right there. James shrugged. Maybe he walked off. But Maya knew he hadn't. He hadn't moved an inch for over 15 minutes. That night, as she walked home, every shadow felt like a threat. Every footstep behind her sent fresh waves of panic through her veins. When she reached her apartment door, she fumbled with her keys, breath hitching in her throat. Then she felt it. A presence, right behind her. She spun around. Nothing, no one. Maya slammed the door shut and locked every bolt. She checked the windows, the closets, the shower. Nothing. She sat on her bed, exhaling shakily. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe stress was getting to her. She just needed sleep. Her phone buzzed, a notification, a photo message, from an unknown number. With trembling fingers, she opened it. It was a picture of her apartment door, taken from the hallway, moments ago, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible but unmistakable, the man in the grey hoodie, smiling. It started with the feeling of being watched. Claire had always been a night owl, often staying up late working on her laptop in her apartment. She lived alone on the 6th floor of an old building with only a few other tenants scattered throughout the floors. It was quiet, which she liked, until the night she saw the shadow. It was nearly 2 a.m. when she first noticed it, just a faint outline in the reflection of her window. At first, she assumed it was nothing, a trick of the dim light or maybe her own movement casting an illusion. But when she turned around, heart pounding, there was nothing there. She let out a breath, shaking her head at herself. "You're just tired." But the next night it happened again. This time she was sure. She had been sitting still, focused on the glow of her screen, when the movement caught her eye. A dark shape in the window's reflection. A figure. She turned swiftly. Again, nothing. But something felt different. Office. She swallowed her nerves and checked the apartment, flipping on every light. The closet, the bathroom, under the bed. Empty. Still, the unease clung to her. She barely slept that night, ears tuned to every creak and rustle in the building. The following evening, she was determined to prove to herself that it was all in her head. Claire sat at her desk, deliberately keeping her focus on her laptop. She refused to let paranoia take over, then her phone vibrated. A message. "Unknown number, why don't you turn around?" Her breath hitched. Hands trembling, she typed back, "Who is this?" No response. Slowly, cautiously, she turned in her chair. Nothing. But when she turned back to her laptop, her screen had changed. Her open documents were gone, replaced with a single image, a photograph of her sitting at her desk, taken from behind. Claire shot up, her chair scraping against the floor. The photo had been taken just moments ago, but she was alone. Alone, wasn't she? She grabbed a knife from the kitchen, her pulse thundering in her ears, and checked every inch of the apartment again. She even opened the front door and peered down the dimly lit hallway. No one. Claire locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and closed all the blinds. She spent the rest of the night clutching the knife, wide awake, waiting. For what, she didn't know. The next morning, she decided enough was enough. She was being stalked. This wasn't paranoia. Someone was inside her apartment, or at least had been. She called the building's landlord, demanding to know if anyone else had access to her unit. He assured her that besides herself, no one did. No master key, no maintenance workers had been by. Her stomach churned. That night, she left every light in the apartment on. She kept her phone in her lap, ready to call the police at the first sign of anything strange. But hours passed and nothing happened. No shadows, no messages. Maybe whoever it was had gotten bored. Maybe they had moved on. Then, at 3:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. Another message. Unknown number. I like the lights on. I can see you better. And this time, attached to the message, a live photo. Claire hesitated, dread creeping up her spine as she pressed play. The image shifted. The brief motion revealed something behind her. A figure, tall, motionless, standing inside her closet. The door had been open the entire time, and she hadn't checked it. The video ended. A single new message appeared. Unknown number, don't turn around. Daniel was the last to board the bus, taking a seat near the back. The ride home was quiet, the only sounds the low hum of the engine and the occasional cough from another passenger. Then he noticed something strange. The woman in the seat across from him wasn't moving. At all, not shifting, not breathing, not blinking. Her hands rested stiffly on her lap, fingers curled unnaturally. As the bus hit a bump, every passenger swayed, except her. Daniel's skin crawled. He turned to the window, trying to shake the unease. But when he looked back, she was closer. Not by much, but enough. She hadn't moved, hadn't stood up. And yet, she was now in the seat directly in front of him. He swallowed hard and pressed the stop button. The bus slowed, doors hissing open. Daniel bolted, not daring to look back. As the bus pulled away, he risked a glance. The woman was standing at the door, staring after him. And then, she smiled, a sharp, unnatural grin stretching far too wide. Daniel ran all the way home. The next morning, as he stepped outside, his heart nearly stopped. The same woman stood at the end of the street, motionless, smiling.